Welcome to True Crime Cases. Today. We are unveiling a shocking story, a sinister secret in a little Arizona town, concealed behind an apparently normal family. A loyal spouse discovers cozy affair between her spouse and his sister-in-law, starting a series of occurrences that result in murder, treachery, and an experiment that astounds the community. Here is the eerie tale of love lies and the repercussions of forbidden desires. It was a calm summer throughout the country in 2006. The Tyler family's house in Alabama was located at a dirt road's terminus, bordered by the small dwelling was surrounded by tall oak trees, but cozy, including light blue shutters, and Elena used to frequently sit on the wraparound porch, drinking iced tea in the evenings, while their kids had fun in the yard from the outside. Everything about the Tyler family seems to be. The heart was flawless. Elena Tyler, at 30, although she discovered a dedicated homemaker, delight in the little things in life, like making pies, to sew her for the church's fundraising event, clothing for kids, and housekeeping. She was pristine and nurturing, always prioritizing people above oneself. Being raised in a loving but strict home, she discovered the importance of dedication and heartfelt effort from her parents, and her union with Daryl was her pride, and she thought they had established a powerful and unbreakable. Daryl Tyler, 35, of the foundation, was the family's provider and a talented mechanic who put in a lot of overtime he was silent at the nearby repair shop, trustworthy, and appeared to have similar family values as Daryl was. Elena to the outside world, a family-oriented man, but the history was more intricate than anyone could have imagined. Elena, in particular, realized that Daryl had been raised in the shadow of his father's adultery. A man with a wandering eye briefly had an affair with, led to the birth of a kid named Lisa. The existence of Lisa was hinted at approximately in the little Alabama town, although it was mostly disregarded by Daryl's relatives. Daryl's mother is a stoic and proud family member. The woman would not admit to the affair, or the youngster created law, and her mom relocated to another town, and Daryl was without communication with her. Everything changed when Daryl pivoted. 17, Lisa was taken to Daryl's by her mother. The two half-siblings in town got together for, when I was just 15. I was brave the first time, and disobedient, the complete opposite of Daryl's peaceful, orderly manner. The bond they established was instantaneous, but distant from normal. Leela was attracted to Daryl's stability, and Daryl, who had matured, longing for a closer connection in his a broken family, discovered him, captivated by her untamed vitality that started off as a naive sibling. Bond became more sinister as they matured. By the time Daryl was 19, they were older. The connection had gone beyond what should have stayed unaltered. It was a secret that they both kept, carried unacknowledged into adulthood, but never forgotten. At the age of 27, when Daryl married Elena, he felt that period of his life was behind. He did so in 2010, when Daryl meticulously crafted life started to disintegrate. On a cool fall day, Daryl got a surprise letter from Law. She had discovered his address via mutual family relationships. The letter was ambiguous, but passionate, filled with sorrow and longing. According to Lisa, she desired closure to eventually talk about their history and make a change. Daryl hesitated, but was unable to ignore the survey of incomplete business. When they got together at a restaurant on the town's outskirts, Lisa was no longer he is a crazy adolescent. Recalled that she was stunning at 33, assured, and exuded a sense of mastery that was frightening as well as attractive. She talked about her difficulties, unsuccessful partnerships, a profession that hadn't taken off, and a persistent feeling of displacement from being the result of an affair that started out as a casual encounter swiftly changed as they remembered their. Layla leaned toward the shared history, ongoing conflict between them. Daryl, despite his superior discernment, he discovered, unable to stop the affair, he was rekindled the decision that day that would, as they moved through life with terrible repercussions for the upcoming months. The affair between Daryl and Law continued in. They met in secret in a hotel outside of town, cautious to avoid leaving any traces how intense their bond was. Driven by years of repressed feelings, with the excitement of the, although prohibited, it was also turbulent. Lisa's deceptive. When tensions started to show, she requested Daryl's interest and became envious of his life with Elena. However, Daryl was afflicted with. He loved Elena and their kids, but he felt guilty. Profoundly, yet he was unable to cut the poisonous he had a bond with. Every time he made a self-promise, Lisa would be Lisa's final attempt to drag him, returning to exploiting his flaws and their mutual history. By the early, Elena started observing changes in. He began arriving home late, Daryl stating more work shifts. He was aloof, frequently absorbed in their thoughts, and their previously lively discussions become terse and frustrated. On some evenings, he would stay away from her entire touch, withdrawing to the garage. Following Elena's breaking point occurred during supper. March rainy afternoon. While washing laundry in 2011, she discovered Daryl's jeans pocket contained a crumpled receipt. It originated from a nearby hotel town, only dated for a week. She initially attempted to ignore it. Perhaps his purpose for being there was to assist a friend, but she knew in her heart something wasn't. Over the following few days, Elena started. In order to put everything together, she observed how Daryl's phone would beep at strange times, and his habit of going outside to take. One evening, Daryl received a call while in. Elena was unable to resist the shower. Want to examine is what she discovered on her phone rocked her world. A series of communications from a lady named. Some people are overtly flirty with Lisa. Describing their gatherings on March 20th evening, Elena confronted Daryl in 2011 and waited till the kids had gone to sleep. Placed his phone on the kitchen gently table accessible to Daryl's messages. At first disputed everything, stating Law was only an elderly family friend, but Elena forced him, voice trembling with rage, and Daryl's facade of grief broke down. He admitted to the affair, but excluded the most startling information. It wasn't until Elena insisted on understand how he came to know Lisa, as Daryl disclosed the reality. Law was his sweetheart, but she was also his. The response from half-sister Elena was one of incredulity and disgust, feeling as if the man she married had lied to her, believed she was concealing something so dark and unbelievably. Elena didn't get any sleep that. She sat at the kitchen table at night, looking at pictures of their loved ones, attempting to understand Daryl's potential for treachery. Her and such. By dawn, she had created deciding to reveal the affair. No, regardless of the cost, I believe that the truth needs to go for her own tranquility and her safety. What Elena was unable to anticipate was the terrible series of events that a choice would be made. Motion, what would occur next? The response was more appalling than anyone could imagine. The disintegration of the Tyler family started on a June Sunday night, 2011, in Daryl's living room in Elena's humble Alabama. Elena had been struggling at home for weeks, bearing the burden of Daryl's. She wavered between anger and betrayal, dejection, uncertain on whether to preserve the hidden relationship for the benefit of their kids or to reveal the truth. In the end, Her rage was stoked by Leela's growing bravery. Leela had begun to go unintelligible voicemails that nearly taunt Elena, asserting that she and Daryl had a connection that Elena vowed that no one could break her. The truth could not stay buried. She convened a family gathering, inviting Daryl's and her parents as well as Lisa herself. The encounter happened that night at the Tyler residence. The tension-filled air, even before, when someone spoke, the kids had been transported to the home of Elena's sister for the night without realizing the impending storm. Within there, Elena lied down as the family assembled. "Everything naked," she said in a cool, collected tone that describes the months of treachery. She had revealed the terrifying truth regarding Daryl and Law's connection. Daryl sat quietly while he, cheeks pale as Lisa, gave a bold sneer, as though she was proud of her disorder. Their parents were struck by the revelation. As proud as a tidal wave, Daryl's mother, Lady, who had ignored the situation for decades, the breakdown of Ella's existence in tears. She was heartbroken not just by Elena was betrayed by Daryl, but by the understanding that her husband's the result of adultery was such a horrible circumstances. Daryl's father sat stiffly, gazing at the ground, feeling guilty for the shattered history of the family is etched everywhere. His face, however, is that of Lisa's mother, exploded in rage, accusing Daryl of damaging her daughter by making her refuse to admit that Law had voluntarily renewed the relationship. Voices sounded chaotically across the room, flying Law with overlapping allegations, yet stayed oddly composed. She asserted she and Daryl were soulmates and that their partnership surpassed ethics or her familial ties. The boldness left everyone astonished. In the days after Daryl made frantic efforts to save his marriage, he pleaded with Elena to pardon him, pledging to sever relations with LLA. He even went so far as to permanently block Lisa's number and make a vow that he wouldn't visit her once again. But Elena's confidence was broken beyond repair. She was unable to take out the picture of Daryl and Law together, may disregard her betrayal. Promises. Elena looked to her relatives for encouraged, spending a lot of time on the phone alongside her sister, and she started talking about separation with her parents. However, the idea of severing her heart was heavy with relatives. Her nights were filled with emotional agony, were restless, and her thoughts were racing with reflections on what had gone wrong. During days were occupied by the draining responsibility of acting as though nothing was wrong for her benefit. Children. Lisa, however, wouldn't allow Daryl went. She got persuaded and fascinated that the only thing remaining was Elena. In her path contentment, she started bugging Elena with callers that leave venomous messages. Despite threats, occasionally the calls were imploring Elena to take a back seat. At other occasions, they threatened Lisa, claiming Elena is not deserving of Daryl. The abuse continued. There, Ed began to appear, loitering outside the Tyler without permission. Neighbors at her house saw her vehicle parked on the street at strange times. After Elena saw Law standing on the brink of looking at the home on their driveway with an eerie intensity. In spite of Daryl's efforts to reduce, she managed to get herself in there, unwilling to acknowledge that into their life he had forsaken her for his family. By Elena's worry started to increase in early 2012. She began to keep the doors secured at always, and even thought about submitting order of restraint. Yet in the quiet, at times, she wondered if she was exaggerating when, in reality, LLA hadn't hurt someone bodily. However, the tension in Tyler's the home was. Daryl was clearly always tense, divided between fear of what and remorse about, while Elena attempted to, Lee may do next, maintain her composure for the benefit of youngsters in the morning of March 6, 2012 began similarly like other Elenas. Living in peace despite the craziness around her, had organized a day of household tasks and errands. Tasks the kids had to complete in school and unusually quiet. The residence was by lunchtime. Everything would. Alteration at 10:42 a.m. Mrs. A neighbor. Something caught Albright's attention. Peculiar, the Tyler's front door, ajar, swinging softly in the home. Mrs. Albright is a retired educator. Felt strange, but didn't, right away, examine it. It wasn't until 12:15 p.m. when Elena didn't answer, her youngest student from the school, that alarms went off around 1:30 p.m. When the police reached the Tyler residence, the scene they found was the horrible body of Elena was discovered sitting in the living room in a puddle of her throat had been cut with blood, and there were indications of difficulty with the furniture, broken glass that has been spilled and strewn all over. The crime scene indicated that there had been a crime. A fervor, the brutality is so intimate, made it clear that the murderer had taken out of passion. Police saw that the residence was filled with emotion, had been looted, but there was no substantial value, seems to be. This wasn't a missing, it was a targeted burglary. Elena's phone is still on the assault. There were many missed calls on the kitchen counter from an unidentified number. The police had by March 8, 2012, started piecing the events together. Before Daryl was murdered, he was asked. He offered a detailed alibi, asserting that he had been at work when morning, which is confirmation of coworkers, but his relationship with LLA made him a person of interest. Focus swiftly switched to her automobile was spotted by her neighbors in the days next to the Tyler residence prior to the murder, and a number of cited her inconsistent actions in recent months. The police were able to secure a warrant for her. They looked around her place and discovered disturbing proof, a notepad full with compulsive writings about Elena Daryl, as well as there. On March 12, 2012, the course of the inquiry drastically changed. Lisa vanished, leaving her apartment unharmed, as though she had hurried away. Her vehicle was discovered abandoned close to the Georgia state line in Alabama night, raising concerns that she was trying to get out of the Tyler. The tragedy in the family had rocked a little. The death of Elena in the heart of an Alabama town so abruptly and violently abandoned her kids. Daryl was orphaned in every way, yet alive was only a shadow of the person he used to be. Overwhelmed by remorse and the burden of his decisions, and the woman who had previously, having been a member of their family, the leading suspect in a homicide case that would haunt them all. What would occur next, forever, was unclear, but one thing was obvious. Daryl and Leia's prohibited fallout. The relationship had reached its terrible. Lisa's conclusion for 4 months. Avoided the law enforcement for M's slipped through their hold as a investigate her disappearance on March 2012's 12th had spurred a national manhunt with her face and name prominently shown across all news. Evidence was found by outlet investigators that she has been making ends meet with money utilizing phony identification documents and alternating between small villages that never stop moving. Before authorities, the case's turning point arrived. July 20th, 2012, when an agent of the Border Patrol a lady was spotted at the Canadian border, anxiously anticipating encountering her. Her look had significantly changed. Auburn hair, which had formerly been bright, was now colored a drab brown, and she had lost a lot of weight, but it was her worried eyes that she was restless, which caused her, when her false identification failed to get through screw. Law tried to escape by running over the roadblock, but she didn't get too far. After a quick chase, She was thrown to the ground, as well as cops discovered a subdued woman in her suitcase. Substantial sums of money, a fake passport, and a diary with unsettling entries about Daryl and Elena, and a large number of entries stated a desire to be reunited. After Elena's with Daryl, removal was him right away. Sent to Alabama after being extradited. Accused of first degree, her arrest for murder was a comfort to Elena's distraught relatives and a little shattered community that had been terrified of what she could do. Afterward, in early 2013, Lila's trial, Lisa started creating national. It received notice in the Jefferson. The proceedings in the county courthouse were distinguished by a blend of solemn contemplation and paid attention. The courtroom was filled with emotion at every turn. Day with enthusiastic community members to see justice strengthened the prosecution's case. Under the direction of the assistant district attorney, an experienced litigator is Carolyn Weaver. Renowned for being thorough strategy, Weaver depicted law as a hazardous and cunning lady she committed murder because of her fixation with Daryl. Elena, in a fit of jealousy, she gave a chronology of what happened, backed up by a text containing devastating proof, voicemails and texts from Lila to Elena, some of which were covered with veiled dangers, forensic evidence, such as DNA and fingerprints connecting Lila to the criminal activity. A number of eyewitness reports. Layla's placement close to the Tyler residence on the morning of March 6. Weaver also emphasized in 2012 unsettling journal entries that showed a trend of compulsive and insane thoughts on these pages. Lisa declared herself to be Daryl's only real love and wrote about getting rid of barriers. To their contentment, the defense team, led by the lawyer, according to Paul Grayson, Leia's actions were caused by unstable mental states and sentimental unrest. Grayson said that her difficult childhood and the poisonous Daryl's relationship had driven her into a condition of, he attempted to assign blame out of desperation, a reference to Daryl, suggesting that his deception and manipulation played an important part in the events that lead to until the passing of Elena. One of the greatest, the trial's poignant moments occurred when Daryl Tyler accepted the stand. His testimony was crucial not just because for the case of pro-persecution, but moreover, as a private moment. Reckoning, Daryl talked about his liaison with law in agonizing detail, exposing the depth of his shame and treachery. He talked about what had occurred to Elena regarding the months preceding murder, how he attempted to break up contact with law, but had misjudged the extent of. He characterized Law's obsession as manipulative as well as persistent, describing her harassment of Elena, and would not relinquish their connection. Daryl's voice broke as he conveyed his regret, not just for his adultery, but for the part he thought it was performed in Elena's death. He refrained from taking direct accountability, claiming he never thought Lila would turn to brutality. His account was a game-changer moment during the trial that influences the jury closer to belief, but it also portrayed Daryl as a very flawed and terrible. Imagine a man whose self-centered choices had ruined the lady he was in love with and destroyed his family's life. Kids on March 15, 2013, after 2 weeks of evidence and the jury deliberated for 2 days. Lisa returned with their decision. Was convicted of murder in the first degree. A mixture of relief exploded throughout the courtroom. And quiet. Elena's family's celebration, who had been present and sobbed each day of the trial, publicly as the decision was read at the March 22 sentencing. The court issued a harsh ruling in 2013. Denunciation of Lisa's behavior, urging the murder was both parties' ultimate betrayal. Relatives and humanity. Lisa received a life sentence in jail without the potential for parole. She maintained her composure when the punishment was delivered via her icy manner gave shivers to the. Following the trial in the courtroom, the neighborhood came together in support of Alena's. Her family remembers her as a loyal, kind neighbor and mother whose life had been shortened in the most vicious. How her parents created the memorial for Alena Tyler.